after going to trial and losing every single count and going to sentencing and getting the max. And I'm here to say, we won. Winning for us was never about beating the case. We knew that wasn't going to happen. Winning for us meant, number one, using the courtroom to expose Chevron's greed, its mendacity, and the judicial enablers that helped them do this. That's right. And we won that. We did that.
You know, part of this journey was I had to go to federal prison for 45 days. And Judge Preska, who presided over my contempt case, she's connected to Chevron because she's a leader of the Federalist Society. And Chevron's a major funder of the Federalist Society. And her legal basis, her legal theory about me was that I should stay in my 7th floor apartment up there. We had many rallies here, and I spoke from my apartment because I couldn't come down to the street. Because she thought I was a risk of flight, that I was going to actually facing a misdemeanor, the smallest possible offense in the federal system, that I was going to abandon my family, my wife and my son, and flee the country and become an international fugitive where I would face a 20-year sentence if I were to get caught. That was her theory. After I had never missed a single court date in any case in my life, and in 28 years of practicing law, I didn't have one single grievance filed against me by any client. I'm a risk of flight. It was all a plan by Chevron and their judicial allies to keep me locked up so I could not do my human rights work and could not advocate. And when I was in prison, the prison was locked down because of COVID, for the most part. We barely got out of our units. It was a low security prison, but the conditions were more like a high security penitentiary.
And like everyone else, when I heard this story, I just couldn't believe. I kept thinking there must be something that I don't know that would explain this miscarriage of justice, that somebody for representing the voiceless in the Amazon after the greedy Chevron had dumped on purpose all this toxic waste, killing indigenous people, poisoning their water still to this day. How possibly could they be, because of a laptop and a phone that was refused to be turned over, how could 993 days of house arrest with a bracelet around your leg and losing your means of support, your job, your license, all of these things, I was like, seriously, there's got to be something else. And that, in fact, is what everybody said to me when I started to talk about this and post things online, because as you can expect, there was a complete blackout in terms of mainstream media. I see a lot of friendly faces here of people who've tried to get out the word over this period of time, sources of independent journalists that have interviewed Stephen, interviewed me, Marianne Williamson, anything that we could try to get people, not only for Stephen's sake, but because of what it means to our democracy, to our system of justice, to our environment, and what it means in the future for any lawyer or activist who tries to speak for the voiceless. You know, we're all not using plastic straws, and meanwhile Chevron is dumping and has had absolutely no accountability. This is just the beginning of the next phase, because we have to make sure that this story doesn't go away. This was a godsend in some ways, and of course Stephen's family and Stephen paid the price, but it did make this conversation possible in the most dramatic way, and we have to keep that conversation going, because we know that the attention span of news is very short, and we're not going to get very much help from mainstream anything. And what we have to work towards is now, you know, protecting Stephen and his family, and also making sure that this doesn't disappear and that Chevron has to pay something. You know, it's clear. I mean, it couldn't be more dramatic what's happening to those people. And this is just one example of people that have been taken advantage of and whose land has been raped and pillaged and poisoned, and it has to stop.
Someone who I think has already changed and has the potential to really make a radical paradigmatic shift in this country through his leadership and the leadership of his many colleagues with whom he works. The man who helped win probably the most significant labor organizing movement in recent history, Mr. Christian Small. Actually, one thing, you're probably wondering how we know each other. We actually met about a week or two ago. A mutual friend brought Chris over, and we literally sat there for 3 hours exchanging stories about our respective campaigns, and it was really an extraordinary night. And thank you. I'm honored to be your friend, Chris.
Thank you.
Sure, you want to win, right? Hey, there's a couple of Amazons we gotta take down. So you started it off. I'm gonna finish it. Yeah, thank you all for coming to this space today, and I'm glad to share this. You know, getting away from the campaign for a couple of hours while we're making history as we speak over there in Staten Island. Yeah. As Steve mentioned, yeah, we met just a few weeks ago. It's been a whirlwind of events, as you can imagine. April 1st, when we made history, you know, everybody and their mother's been calling our phones, and it's been crazy. I've been trying to do media, trying to be organizing, trying to take care of my kids, and trying to have a little bit of a social life. So it's just great to finally get away from a bus stop, because I was at a bus stop for about a year, and to be here and share this space and share this experience with the community and with the world, that's what the labor movement needed, and that's what I think we all needed as community. So, you know, this is a moment and a window of opportunity for everybody. You know, the pandemic was not just life or death. It was really a higher power saying that the world needs to stop and people need to pay attention. And you had a choice to make. If you go back to what you think was normal beforehand, you pretty much just meeting your fate, your ends meet. You're not living for a purpose. And when you think about the pandemic that happened in 2020, the world stopped. You had a moment right there to make a decision. What am I going to do for my future, for my children? And when Amazon fired me, it was a no-brainer. I had nothing else to lose. I just lost everything. I lost my health care. I lost my income, my main source of income. And it's the middle of a pandemic. I'm not getting hired anywhere. And I got fired on TV. So who the hell was hiring me? I'm the whistleblower. And I said, you know what? You know what? Fuck it, I'm unemployed. So I took that moment and I said, you know what? I don't want my kids to grow up and go through this. And Jeff Bezos made that, he even signed off on this smear, you know, calling me not smart or articulate, ironically to make me the face of the whole unionizing efforts. I said, okay, noted. They're reaping our benefits. They're reaping our labor. They're destroying our lives. They're killing us. They're firing us. They're destroying the Amazon, the real Amazon. They're building more Amazons. You know, that's what we saw. And they increased their profits. But fast forward to now. Because guess what? Right now, we in the revolution.
When Chris said, we won, in a union election that was rigged by the company. They won anyway. And it sort of resonated with me because the people of Ecuador, the indigenous people of Ecuador, won. Okay? In a trial process that was structured to favor the wealthier corporation, and they won anyway. We won, okay? And I just want to point out, no matter what they try to do to me with my detention, there is a judgment out of the courts of Ecuador where Chevron insisted the trial be held for $9.5 billion against Chevron that Chevron refuses to pay, and they are going to pay that judgment. If the gods and neutral courts have anything to do with it, okay? And I want to just also say that that judgment was affirmed by 6 different appellate courts, 28 appellate judges, and they want to focus totally on me, and we're going to take the focus right back to the people of Ecuador that Chevron is poison.
Chevron has blood on its hands. We have to remember this, right? This is a very joyful day, and we should all be celebrating. And we also have to remember that Stephen Donziger was locked up because his crime was going after Chevron and successfully suing them for poisoning indigenous people in Ecuador and their water, causing birth defects, cancer, death, and environmental destruction. And the only people who have paid for that, despite this judgment, the only people who have paid for that are people who have died, who have gotten cancer, who have been persecuted and prosecuted, like Stephen Donziger. And Stephen is the first one to tell you that his case pales in comparison to the losses that the people of Ecuador have gone through, and we need to remember that. And the other group of people, besides all these lawyers and judges who have blood on their hands, is the media, because the media was totally silent about this. They're complicit in this. They really do share a lot of responsibility. I can count on 2 hands the number of people in the media, and shout out to Status Coup, who's here tonight, shout out to Breaking Point, shout out to The Nation, shout out to The Intercept, shout out to Susan Sarandon, Marianne Williamson, people who use their voices, because there was a deafening silence, and we cannot permit that to happen. And then the third group that has blood on its hands, you see I'm being very socialist and, redistributing the guilt among many. The third group that has blood on its hands are the politicians. Where are Gillibrand? Where's Gillibrand? Where is Senator Schumer? And where is Charles? Nadler. Thank you, Jerry Nadler. Sorry, Charles Rangel is my guy. Okay, Jerry Nadler. He's not available. Okay, well, where's Jerry Nadler? This is a shame. Yeah, I know. So, and I'll wrap up by just saying, Democrats, you're supposed to pretend to be better than Republicans on this. You're supposed to pretend to care about the environment. I know you don't really, but at least, like, for optics' sake, just show up. Like Susan said, show up. Everyone else needs to show up because they won't, but let's make people at least go through some of the motions. And Chevron, make Chevron pay, and also exonerate this guy fully and reinstate his bar. I don't know what the legal term is, whatever. I object to his being disbarred. Okay, thank you.
Great. I want to introduce a friend, Avery Sy, who's been coming to our rallies over the years. She's been baking cookies and putting the money into the defense fund, and she's a friend. And I really like Avery and admire her so much, and she's a child leader of the climate movement. Avery, take it away.
Hi, my name is Avery Sy, and I'm a climate activist from Brooklyn. I said it before, but I want to say it again. I'm so happy to have a hero in Stephen Donziger. He is someone I can look up to because he cares about the planet, indigenous people, and what is right. He never gives up, and I won't either. This past Friday on Earth Day, I was leading the climate strike, and I brought in a bag full of climate protest signs to share with anyone who needed one. I also brought the banner I made that says Chevron poisons kids. But when I pulled it out in front of the head of my school, she got upset and told me I had to put it away. I put it away. Later, I told her that it was true that Chevron poisons kids with their massive oil spills around the world. And I told her that Chevron is helping Putin and it is fueling the war in Ukraine. She didn't care, but I know the truth. The truth is Chevron is polluting the world and people are dying. I'm going to stand up for the truth. We will not be silent. Another world is possible.
It's crazy. I can't even believe this, but I've traveled to Ecuador over 250 times from New York. In the course of 20 plus years, trying to help move this case along, I feel like it's a second home. I meet Ecuadorians all over the city, all over the place. It's just an extraordinary bond that we have. And, it really reminds me how much we need to focus now, shift gears a little bit, focus on the people of Ecuador who have sat there for my 993 days of detention, still with no relief from the world's worst oil poisoning in history. It's called the Amazon Chernobyl. For those who don't know, Chevron deliberately, through its predecessor company, Texaco, deliberately, they made this decision to dump billions of gallons of cancer-causing toxic oil waste into rivers and streams that the indigenous peoples had used for millennia for their drinking water, for their bathing, and for their fishing. That's the fundamental, in my opinion, environmental crime that this company committed. And their attacks on me are tricky, right? We need to protect me, and God, I need protection. Okay, not just up to this point, but going forward. But I'm also being used by them as a weapon of mass distraction. Okay, they don't want people to think about the crimes they committed in Ecuador. They want people to think about Steve Donziger. This is not my case. I'm a lawyer on this case. Okay, this is a case owned by the indigenous peoples of the Amazon of Ecuador and the rural farmer communities who united in a class to win a major, probably the most epic legal environmental case in history. It is not the Steve Donziger case. It's not the Steve Donziger case. But it is connected, isn't it? Because to the extent I can be protected, they're protected. They're attacking me to attack the people of Ecuador and undermine the money that Chevron owes to them for the mass industrial poisoning that occurred over a 25-year period, like the mid-'60s to the early '90s, and it's all still out there. So let's be very clear about that. I do need help going forward because I am still, as Jada pointed out, in some peril. I mean, it's sort of unclear to me exactly how much, but we have to be prepared because these people at Gibson Dunn are capable of really anything. I mean, they've shown their true colors. So we have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared to keep pressing President Biden for a pardon of me. People say, why are you seeking a pardon if you did nothing wrong? Well, I'll tell you why I'm seeking a pardon. Because the legal system here in New York, as far as my case is concerned, is dysfunctional. It is broken down. There's nowhere to go anymore. All the judges are united in backing these non-jury trials that are based on this constructed lie, as Professor Nesson pointed out. And we cannot, as Sarah Lee said, accept living in a country where human rights lawyers get locked up. What is going on? I mean, people say, would you do it over again if you knew this would happen? I mean, who the hell could imagine this kind of thing happening? Okay? Who the heck, when you calculate out, getting involved in a case, as a lawyer, you're going to get locked up? Okay? That can't happen. We must all work together to ensure that this never happens again. And not only that it never happens again, that this bogus criminal contempt conviction that put me upstairs for almost 3 years gets erased by a president who needs to walk the walk on climate. Okay, we cannot let President Biden make all these fancy campaign promises about climate and then allow massive drilling on public lands and allow a human rights lawyer who's a frontline defender to be locked up in his own country. We can't let that happen.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.